I'm Evan Knappen.
And I'm Teddy Knappen.
And welcome to Gun Lawyer. Well, my friends, I have to tell you, this is just one of the greatest moments in what I would have to say in our fight to destroy gun rights suppression. It is just a banner time right now. Absolutely a crescendo at a moment here that I'm just so excited about. Truly, truly excited. No joke. And that is that the Supreme Court of the United States has granted certiorari, meaning accepted the case, so that it means there will be an opinion, a decision, a rule made by the court, finally, on so-called assault weapons. Yes, we've done it. We finally have gotten to where the U.S. Supreme Court is going to look at the impact of the Second Amendment on this issue that I can tell you that I've personally been battling and fighting in the state of New Jersey since it was first enacted in May of 1990. And I can tell you, looking back to those days, I remember just thinking, man, hopefully we'll one day get the United States Supreme Court to deal with this issue. But even back then, there was no Heller decision. There was no Supreme Court decision that even said that the right to keep and bear arms was an individual right. We didn't even have that back then. And when the anti-gun rights crowd embarked on this brand new approach, which it was at the time, because to understand the history and to where we are right now, why it just is so meaningful, you need to understand that the gun rights attack, the effort by our adversaries to destroy our right to keep and bear arms, it basically, in modern times, started after World War I. It was essentially imported here from the UK, from Great Britain. It had gotten its roots there, and it came across the pond like a cancer. And it percolated to the point where by 1934, we ended up with the first national Firearms Act. And prior to 34, but after World War I, you saw states passing state laws of what we commonly call gun control laws, all right? And the gun control laws of those days first initiated through the 20s, and we still have remnants of those laws, still on the books, by the way, in New Jersey and other places, that were put forward by state legislatures and enacted. And those gun laws were mirrored and influenced and encouraged by what was taking place originally in Great Britain. And these laws in America in that time period, and you may find this surprising, and it's not meant to be bashing in any way of NRA, but they were even supported and promoted by the NRA at that time. Okay, the NRA had even put forward what were called the model firearm laws. They put model laws together that they wanted states to pass. The NRA saw its mission then in a naive, unfortunately, very naive, as certain gun laws and such that they would support. Now, since then, that's not their position, and they've learned from this naive mistake. But it led up to the 1934 Act, and we've suffered under that. this entire time, and that became the first national gun rights oppression law. And even at the time, in the American Rifleman, you could read they even praised it. They said, and this is how they viewed it. You got to understand, put yourself in they said, we've solved the gun problem in America. We've passed this great national law, and now we've resolved it. We've solved it. We've addressed it. It's done. And of course, it was far from done. But for approximately 30 plus years, that was about it for our national laws on guns being passed. But then along comes the 68 Gun Control Act, which built upon, to a certain degree, of course, built upon the NFA, because we already had that national law and the 68 law, and then 72, and then 80s and 90s, and et cetera. And so that foundation got laid. And in between all this, what you mainly saw the fight as being, though, where the modern day focus was handguns. I remember through the 80s, before the invention, and that's what it was, the invention of the assault weapon issue. It hadn't been invented yet. Everything was, we only want to ban handguns. Handguns were the symbol of crime. Every news show on, the major controlled networks, there weren't any cables, you just had ABC, NBC, and CBS, and you had their nightly news. And anytime they talk about crime, whether there was a gun involved or not, they always showed a handgun on the news screen anytime they talked about crime. So the propaganda was put there. Everything was about banning handguns. And the main gun rights oppression group of the day was known as handgun control. Okay, handgun control was the big group. You had players at the time like Pete Shields and others. And this is where the push was. And then along comes Josh Sugarman, who puts out his manifesto of the assault weapons and their accessories. And even in his manifesto, he writes that the American public will be fooled by this because they don't know the difference between machine guns and semi-autos, and this lays the groundwork for this. And lo and behold, we have California with Patrick Purdy and the massacre that occurred in that incident, and that's all the blood they needed to dance in. And then the assault weapon laws became the biggest threat to our Second Amendment rights, and everything has weirdly shifted, so that handguns, with the growth of concealed carry, which has been an amazing success for gun rights support, handguns are not the big issue for banning, except for, of course, a modern-day focus on Glocks because they're easily convertible, right? Except for that, you don't see the push like you used to ban handguns. And, of course, Heller took care of that as well, saying it's unconstitutional to ban handguns, too. But the push on semi-automatic rifles under the contrived, created term of assault weapon, where they took what the German of Sturmgewehr, which was the true original assault weapon, a medium power round in a long arm that's designed for urban settings that is select fire, right? Both full auto and semi-auto, and creating this and putting it with that scary assault weapon moniker to scare the public and sell it. And it was, to their credit, to a certain degree, successful. It was successful in a number of states that passed state laws, including Jersey, that passed one of the worst, most destructive, horrible gun laws that have ruined good people. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. And even a federal law at one point through the 1994 bill that was a crime, which they call the crime bill, but I call the bill that was a crime, where we had the first national assault weapon ban that sunset and went away in 10 years, which was 2004, and they've not been able to reenact another federal ban since. But that ban did end up living on, by the way, in the state of New Jersey, because New Jersey adopted the language of that to save New Jersey's assault firearm ban from being declared unconstitutionally vague. Now, that was started by a case that I did, State v. Merrill, where I had the law declared unconstitutional for vagueness because of the term substantially identical, which was undefined. What does substantially identical even mean? How can something be substantially and identical at the same? It's like saying almost exact. Nothing's almost exact. It's either exact or it isn't. And because of the vagueness of that, it was found unconstitutional. Judge Farron, Monmouth County, we knocked out the case. That case was then brought into federal court by the gun rights groups, and that's where the Attorney General, in order to save it, adopted the 1994 federal crime bill standard that was feature specific, that we still live by today in Jersey as to what makes a compliant gun or not, as to the definition of substantially identical, which the court said, well, now that you know the definition, it's no longer vague, and therefore it's constitutional, which is, of course, a judicial lie, a fallacy, a falsehood, because what that means is that somehow in 1990, our legislators passed an unconstitutionally vague law that did not have definition, and somehow knew that in 1994, the federal government would pass a law that defines the undefined law in New Jersey. That's just ridiculousness squared. But nonetheless, it is law, at least as it stands, in New Jersey now. And we saw other states and other counties constantly push on the so-called assault weapon ban, a focus being on the big, bad AR-15. And we've had fight after fight. And as our battle for Second Amendment rights continued through the courts, and we got the trifecta, we got Heller finding what we all knew in our hearts was true, that the Second Amendment is an individual right. We got McDonald, which said this doesn't just apply to the federal government, it applies to all states and localities. And then we got Bruin, that laid out the test of constitutionality and gave us the requirement that carry permits must be issued. And with that buildup of having the trifecta, we've now gotten more cases from the Supreme Court that solidify this approach, so that just now, in this moment in our lifetimes, the Supreme Court has finally accepted the challenge to the bans of so-called assault weapons. The name of the case...
Particularly those two cases, it's
yes,
Vermontes
Vermontes
County and
yes,
Grant versus Higgins.
Right. Now, those cases, the Cook County case is the Illinois local, it's a local county, it's a local assault weapon ban ordinance, just an ordinance banning, okay? And then the other case they took was Connecticut, which is a statewide ban. Why do that? Well, what's great is they're going at anywhere and everything, whether it's local or state. The challenge is across the board as per McDonald. It's incorporated both local and state. So we now have a certiorari grant combining two cases. And it isn't just limited to Connecticut and this one local county. Their decision will reach all localities, all states, and stand in the future with our win that I am confident we will win to stop future federal laws on this. Here's the actual... Go ahead.
I will point out that this is just something the I always keep an eye on like all the arguments the left always do, and I always love the ad hominem attack where they say, "Well, this is just some Second Amendment Foundation," which they're party to both. They're the ones that brought the case. Second Amendment Foundation, Firearms Policy Coalition, brought the Vermont
And Second Amendment Foundation.
And Second Amendment Foundation, along with the Connecticut Citizens Defense League. They always
Right.
try to say, "Oh,
And
this
there are,
isn't just
Teddy,
like-
there's
this
also
is-
individual plaintiffs that are very important, that have standing,
Yeah.
that have gone the distance. So this is not, this
Correct.
is actual
Isn't
people
AstroTurf,
and
that's what they try to
organizations.
say. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
well,
even taking a step
AstroTurf,
back,
that's a joke.
yeah, but that is.
I mean,
and also,
yeah, go ahead.
just to take that in just through history, just look at the cases throughout, like some of the major Supreme Court cases. I think it was what was it? Either I think it was like maybe Plessy versus. There was one regular Supreme Court case where it was brought by it was about segregation where it was the train companies where they were trying to make sure they didn't have to make extra cars for separating blacks and whites. And that was brought. And they actually set it up to have the case like to get the individual arrested for the segregation. Like it's not the first time you've had organizations, and that's throughout all like a vast majority of cases where you have other
Listen,
organizations
Teddy,
bring things up.
AstroTurf, Rosa Parks was a setup. Rosa Parks, back of the bus, racial segregation. What do you think? It was engineered to make the challenge. Okay? Yeah. So don't give me that. You want to put the issues forward and get the issues decided? Good. Good. They have actual plaintiffs. They have actual people that are suffering under these laws. And they have organizations that represent vast amounts of members. It's fine. It's real.
Yeah.
The assault
It was Plessy versus
firearm
Ferguson.
bans are real. And in New Jersey, their impact has been one of absolute destructive power. But let me just tell you what the court, just to close this, so we know exactly what they're going to decide. Here is the question presented that they have granted certiorari on. Here it is. Ready? Whether the Second and 14th Amendments guarantee the right to possess the AR-15 platform and similar semi-automatic rifles. This is great because one of the criteria is that the antis are going to use is they're going to say, well, it has to be arms that are commonly possessed. Well, the AR-15 is the most commonly possessed rifle in America. As a matter of fact, folks, there are more AR-15s than there are Ford F-150 pickup trucks. Let that sink in.
That was the other
Okay.
argument I've been seeing from the Trace. They just did their whole boohoo, whine and crying. It was from this
Right.
Chip Brownlee. Guess the first thing they highlight. This is the fight for the dangerous and unusual AR-15. Like that's the common use versus that's the spin that they're trying to lay the groundwork on. Is that whole
Yeah.
idea of
Well, you know why?
unusual
Because
and
they
dangerous.
don't have historical analogs under the Bruin test anymore that can help them. Their analogs have had their legs cut off. The one they loved was about the black codes, where they banned blacks from Bowie knives and guns and whatever. And Alito, just in the recent opinion, made it clear that's a tainted relic. No, it can't be taken seriously. So forget it. That analog is out the window. They just have revealed, based on research by Stephen Halbrook, that the precedent claimed for carrying, a matter of fact, this was even in Coons, one of the precedents relied upon by the court was a law that never was a law. It was simply something in some Frenchman's book that talked about it. But the actual law was not how they're citing it at all. Their analogs are fraught with fraud, fraught with being completely tossed in the garbage can. They know when it comes to that Bruin test of history, text, and tradition, because in order for a law to be upheld and found not to be unconstitutional under the Second Amendment, the government has the burden of showing the past analogs that there were other laws that were like that law that make this new law acceptable. And they don't have that. They do not have it. So they're falling back, Teddy, to, well, it's not common use. Well, that's falls flat on its face. They're falling back on what? What's the classic? Why don't you tell? What's the classic when
Bitters,
all else
blood in the
fails for them to
streets.
cry about?
Blood in the streets. That's blood in the streets. They always cite to.
Bits.
We have to consider the gun violence when considering the
And
Second
all
Amendment.
that
goes
falls
right
under
to
that.
Brown.
Public policy. They always go back to the public policy arguments. Policy, public policy, blah, blah, blah. And guess what? That doesn't cut it. That doesn't justify infringement of the Second Amendment. That argument is dead in the water. It's not the test. It's not a balancing test. Balancing tests aren't allowed. Done, dead, gone. You can't balance public policy. Blah, blah. Can't do it anymore. They know they're going to be crushed. And I cannot wait for that day. I cannot wait till about, at the latest, it'll be next June. We're going to have a decision that removes, finally, I know it in my bones, gets rid of, ends this travesty called assault weapon ban. And let me tell you something. These laws have destroyed good people. These laws have created more harm than they claim the firearms themselves have created, especially in states like New Jersey, because it isn't just that an individual can't have that gun or this gun. It's the aggressive insanity of enforcement, destroying people's lives. You get convicted of possession of an assault firearm in Jersey, right? An AR-15 that has a bayonet mount on it and a pistol grip. You are now guilty of possession of an assault firearm because of a bayonet mount. You're looking at 10 years in state's prison with a minimum mandatory 3.5 years with no chance of parole. 3.5 minimum mandatory, folks. No way around it. No way. If you're convicted of that, the judge has zero discretion. You can be Mother Teresa. You have to get 3.5 years minimum mandatory in state prison because you had a gun that had a bayonet mount and a pistol grip. Because you can only have one offending feature, and pistol grip is one offending feature right out of the box, and you had two because your other one was a bayonet mount. And you know how important bayonet mounts are to crime. I mean, come on, what about all the drive-by bayonettings we have to take care of here, right, folks? That's how idiotic it is.
I think you also, I'm just looking at the future because just from the facts of where everything's lined up, yeah, we're going to win. And just seeing that right now, the way things lay out, I look
Although
to
we don't want to be overconfident, but we can.
I understand. Fine,
just know
cautiously
we have
optimistic. Fine,
But I am
cautiously optimistic.
I am incredibly cautiously optimistic
Yeah,
with an
optimistic.
emphasis on optimistic.
I always look to what is left of what would be the next step then on the gun rights suppressionists, because the only thing I could think of is they're just going to try to push.
Wait. Hold that thought for a minute, because I just
Yeah.
want to finish about the other destruction that has occurred. Because like I said, it's not just that. You get arrested, you're charged with assault firearm, then you're thrown in the gulag. Now they want to hold you until your trial, and you're going to spend at least a week, even if your lawyer can get you out before your trial. You have that fight. Then they use it as a licensing disqualifier. If you had an assault firearm, you're banned from ever having guns again. Even, it doesn't matter. It's an assault firearm. On top of that, they have made assault firearm possession not releasable under the gulag. Remember, we've talked about this. It becomes a criteria where there's a presumption for you to be held in jail. Presumption in favor, all over this nonsense. So you see, it's far-reaching. And what happens when someone inadvertently gets involved in this? Your life gets destroyed. You lose your career. You lose your family. You can lose your freedom. You lose your gun rights. It's devastating to people. And then there are those that are doing hard time because of their otherwise lawful possessors. Doesn't matter. They're doing time and having their life destroyed and turned into felons. And so let me just say this. After this decision is a tremendous win for our gun rights and for civil rights, because it's in the same category as the First Amendment, folks. It's in the same category as a fundamental right under the Bill of Rights. What I want to see after that is reparations to gun owners. That's right, reparations to gun owners. They talk on the other side about reparations for slavery to generations later that were never slaves. And they want here we will have reparations to individuals who are still alive and have suffered, to anybody that had to give up one of their guns that never should have had to those that went into the gulag and suffered that never should have, to those who have done state prison sentences that never should have, to those who have lost their gun rights, who have had their families, their lives, their freedom, their fortunes all destroyed, reparations to them. Wait till after this decision comes down. Then we push for reparations. We don't let it end. Oh, sure. Is that difficult? Will it be hard? Yeah. But it's no more hard and, frankly, way less of an ask than those asking for reparations for slavery, where we don't even have the victims of that alive today.
It's also very easy to quantify because you go into just the legal fees that were brought, the time in jail, like plenty of people have sued and won on those cases. So it's something you can actually determine, as opposed to generational racism. It's ridiculous as ridiculous sounds. But to this end, where someone who had their life destroyed because of the gun control that they have pushed over the years.
That was utterly a violation of our fundamental rights and Second Amendment civil rights. It absolutely is going to lay groundwork for at least tremendous litigation. And really, we should have eventually a federal reparations law requiring states to pay that ever had these laws to compensate individuals who suffered under their tyranny. So, Teddy, you had something else to mention. I know you did.
Yes. So the one thing I was looking at whenever I always look to our opponents, because I try not to think of them as being stupid, because even though they are pretty retarded on a lot of different fronts, but
true.
But they always keep pushing, and I remember this term for it of what they were described. The left and the Marxists are line steppers, where they go with the idea of what can we get away with, what can we push for, because they always go for that. It's always just progressivism for progressive's sake, cut to trans ideology, cut to, we're going to take your children away and then transition them, cut to any form of the left in its insanity. I always think to what will be the next push. I can see it right now. Repealing the Second Amendment will be the
100%.
next push.
That will have to be their next push.
There's the only thing. The only thing I can think of is what they did to Penny, what they did to all the other self-defense cases that we've had, where it's fine, you can have your firearms, but if you ever use them, we will drag you through the courts, we'll make your life a living hell, and we will make it so that people will want to murder you and come to your house and dox you. Like, that's the only thing at this point because that's all they have. They are the party of violence. That is shown. You have doxing websites they run. That is the only two avenues I can see for that. And also the suing gun shops into oblivion, which we need to do something with the, I think it's, what is it, the PLCA, where it's the protection.
Yeah,
that-
Placa, right. That's the other thing.
Placa.
Keep
We
trying
need
to
to,
sue 'em.
we need to improve and expand Placa just to say, no, stop
True.
wasting the state's money. So I don't know
Yeah,
what the test should be, but we need to.
Well, the fight will definitely change, and, the gun rights oppressors are not going to give up, but
course
this
not.
will absolutely take away one of their actually most successful modern gun rights oppression tax. This will be
Yes.
this will destroy what has actually been one of their areas of success. To be honest, they have succeeded in multiple states and even at one point federally over this. This will destroy it, kill it, and they're going to be knocked back on their heels very hard by it. And then we need to
Repeal the
finish
Hughes Amendment.
the job. We need to go for reparations and make it so that when any of these governments decide to embark on rights violations, that down the road we make them pay. We just don't kill the law. We just don't knock it out so that it no longer has effect. But we have to make them pay for what they did to good people. And we do that through reparations. And
We should also
really,
repeal
we
the
need to
Hughes
demand
Amendment.
that.
Just
Well, it's going to build.
yeah,
Once we get this case, then of
Yeah.
course the rest of NFA, any other hardware bans, all these things are going to be on the table, and we're going to have even stronger, better case law to take it all out as the house of cards built by the gun rights oppressors collapses. Hey, and by the way, let me tell you about our good friends at We Shoot. We Shoot is a range in Lakewood. It's where Teddy and I both shoot, and that is, of course, where we get our training. And I want to tell you that they are offering New Jersey concealed carry, so you can get your C-Care, you can get your carry permit out of Jersey. They have a new price for their C-Care. It's it's only $225, and you can sign up at We Shoot and get their carry course, and it is great. You'll get your PTC certification, and they really set the gold standard there at We Shoot. And you'll be able to get requalification. It's used, this is the training that, police departments use. There are also USCCA and NRA-backed courses. It's all combined. This is where you can reserve and get it done so you can get your carry, particularly now where we're knocking out sensitive places, as we just did with the Wooford case, which actually impacts New Jersey's sensitive places. We're going to see more and more availability of where we can carry, and we still have every carry permit holder is another vote for carry. We're probably by now well over 100,000 carry permits in Jersey, where it used to be 600, okay? Literally just 600, not 600,000, 600, and now we're in the 100,000 or damn close, if not over it, of carries. That just shows you how their oppression law was so successful before, and after Bruin, it's dead. So go to We Shoot, check out We Shoot. You'll love We Shoot. They have great training, and not only can you get your New Jersey permit certification, your C-Care, they also offer special training to get that for seniors, 65 or older. And they have a special deal for seniors for only $185. You can get your training there. They also offer New York City non-resident carry. They are offering New York City non-resident carry. They have it at a fantastic new low price of $289. And you can get your New York City, which also covers New York State, non-resident carry permit. They'll do all the training, and this is really great. Anthony Zallo will be doing this course. It spans 2 days. It covers firearm safety and storage, pistol ammunition basics, de-escalation techniques, federal and state law, live fire training. And if you're seeking even more certifications, they offer Maryland wear and carry, as well as Washington, D.C. carry permits for just $150 each. So, look, Tuesday, August 4th, they will be holding their New York resident and non-resident carry courses. We Shoot also has a civilian shoot house. This is really cool. Their civilian shoot house training so you can understand how to clear rooms, move with purpose, and make decisions under pressure. This is great for homeowners and parents and security team. Anybody who's serious about protecting their home and community, check out We Shoot's civilian shoot house training. And they have that scheduled out. You can sign up Friday, July 31st for that. They have adult CPR and AED and Stop the Bleed so that you know how to treat wounds. They're offering that training, and that's July 20th. And for new shooters, they have great training called From Nervous to Bullseye. Your entry level, you want basic training, here's what you can do. They're offering weekend classes, right? And you can hit your target with their great instructors, Grant Gallagher, Tony Zollo, and Lance Hubeni. They're all there. Sign up. I mean, this is a phenomenal resource we're talking about here at We Shoot in Lakewood. They offer USCCA and Sig Sauer Academy close quarter defense fundamentals. I mean, can you believe this? Great, just fantastic training. Make sure you check out WeShootUSA.com. You'll love the range, you'll love the pro shop, and you'll love the people. They are the best. Go to WeShootUSA.com today and take a trip down to Lakewood, right there in Central Jersey, conveniently off the Parkway. You'll be glad you did. Let me also shamelessly promote my book, New Jersey Gun Law. It's the Bible of Jersey gun law, and you need to get your copy today. Go to evannappin.com and get a copy of New Jersey Gun Law. It'll help keep you from being a gofoo. Hey, we are now celebrating, of course, the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. This is a great moment in our history where that fantastic, earth-shattering, world-changing, humanity-changing document was signed and began the birth of our wonderful America as the greatest country on earth. And I have nothing but reverence for our founding fathers and our founding documents, and celebrate 100%. And let me tell you about the author. There are, of course, the Committee of Five that technically authored the Declaration, but the majority of the credit is given to, and I hope you know this, Thomas Jefferson. But let me tell you about how great Thomas Jefferson was, not just because of his phenomenal presidency, his assertion of our national reputation against the Muslim pirates, the pirates of the day, right? Standing up to them, and also the Louisiana Purchase, and so many amazing things under Jefferson. And of course, the Declaration of Independence. But let me tell you something about Jefferson I want you to know when it comes to firearms. Thomas Jefferson was one of us, okay? couldn't be more one of us. Thomas Jefferson was one of the greatest gun founding fathers to live. And let me read you, especially on the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, the man who wrote that and made us so where we are today, we can be proud and free. Listen to some quotes from Thomas Jefferson, specifically about guns. Here's a great quote from Thomas Jefferson. "No free man shall ever be debarred the use of arms." Yeah, he said that. No free man shall ever be debarred the use of arms. That's Thomas Jefferson in the Virginia Constitution draft of 1776. Here's another phenomenal quote by Thomas Jefferson. "I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery." Let that sink in, folks. Prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. He wrote that in a letter to James Madison in 1787. Here's another great quote from Thomas Jefferson. "What country can preserve its liberties if its rulers are not warned from time to time that their people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms." That's right. Enemies foreign and domestic, my friends. You heard what Jefferson said. "The laws that forbid the carrying of arms are of such a nature, they disarm only those who are neither inclined nor determined to commit crimes. Such laws make things worse for the assaulted and better for the assailants. They serve rather to encourage than to prevent homicides. For an unarmed man may be attacked with greater confidence than an armed man." Pure common sense, spoken by Thomas Jefferson in Commonplace Book, quoting the 18th century criminologist Cesar Beccaria. Here's another quote from Thomas Jefferson. "A strong body makes the mind strong. And as to the species of exercises, I advise the gun. While this gives moderate exercise to the body, it gives boldness, enterprise, and independence to the mind. Games played with the ball and others of that nature are too violent for the body and stamp no character on the mind. Let your gun, therefore, be your constant companion of your walks." Let that one sink in, folks. Thomas Jefferson in his letter to Peter Carr from August of 1785. "The Constitution in most of our states and of the United States assert that all power is inherent in the people, and they may exercise it by themselves, and that is their right and duty to be armed at all times." Let all those quotes from Thomas Jefferson sink in and think about as we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence and the man that was the chief engineer of that document and how that man viewed our Second Amendment rights.
I will also say, like, I don't know if did you ever get to go to Monticello, Dad? Did you and Mom get to go?
Well, thanks for mentioning it. No.
Yeah.
That is on my bucket list, and I'm going there. My wife went. You've gone.
No, I didn't. I didn't
What?
get to
You
go.
didn't
Mom,
either? Then you and I have gotta
just Mom.
go.
Just Mom
Oh.
got to go. That's why.
That's
So
not this. This is just wrong.
I know.
I've got to go to Monticello, and I've been meaning to get there, and it's bugging the hell out of me.
If you ever do go there, they have his pistols, his famed pistols that were, I think, gifted
Cool.
to him. It was from a Turk, and his famed twin pocket pistols. that
Nice.
were there. They were gifts from, and I believe it was from, like, I had that pulled up. It was a pair of Turkish pistols received from General Isaac Zane in place of a Monterey bequest.
Bequest.
And
Bequest? Bequest.
bequest.
Yeah, because no, it gifted him these pistols.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and was also kind of interesting was that Jefferson loved to go out and do competition shoots. He would do a lot of. He was a fairly good marksman, and there's marks of his letters showing that he was noted in his accounts. I won a shooting in 1 of 6. It was a muster with Captain Jacob Moon's Albany County Militia Company. He lost 2 to 6. But as he grew older, his limited exercise, he moved more to firearms and hunting over his horseback riding. And he even had designs, and there was a counting of a double-barreled gun lock that he had drawn. So there's various other bits in his accounts.
Like I said, he's one of us, man. 100%. 100%. Hey, this is wonderful and incredibly important part of our heritage and our tradition. And Jefferson stands tall, as did all the founding fathers were, of course, gun owners and knew the importance of arms. But Jefferson is special, without a doubt. Jefferson's special. And, Teddy, I want to tell you about this week's GoFu. This is a GoFu that every time in the practice of gun law, and there's something new, some other GoFu that I'd not even heard about before, it just blows me away. I'm like, it constantly gets crazier and worse. And I want everyone to understand this GoFu, which are gun owner F-ups, where individuals are now experiencing expensive lessons or have experienced expensive lessons that you can hopefully avoid for free by listening to Gun Lawyer. So this week's GoFu concerns the following. We have a couple, husband and wife, that are not getting along well with one another. And, okay, it happens, right? It happens. Well, it ends up where at some point there's a fight, and like the old kind of comedy issue you've seen on TV where often it's the woman, doesn't have to be, but often throws the husband's clothing or the belongings out the window to get out, that kind of a thing. Well, in this case, apparently firearms were tossed out onto the lawn, okay? And, I guess it sends a message as to throwing out things that the other party they believe care about. But whatever, I'm not going to get into the psychology of it. Bottom line is this takes place. What happens? Well, it ends up where the police get involved. And the police get involved because it falls under the so-called banner of domestic violence. So anytime there is domestic violence, police are called in over any claim of domestic violence, and it's so broad. Remember, domestic violence could be anything, even harassment, which is the essence of which is doing something to purposely annoy another. Now, I know none of you have ever purposely annoyed your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, but if you did, then you arguably committed domestic violence for harassment. Anyway, that can bring the police into your lives. And this is where you get to live the famous saying of Ronald Reagan. We're here from the government and we're here to help. And of course, that was one of the best, most sarcastic things that Reagan ever said. Because we're here from the government and we're here to help is, of course, the exact opposite. And that's what happened here. The government gets involved, and both parties are questioned over various allegations. It doesn't matter what. Anyway, the bottom line is the domestic violence forms are filled out where the issue is documented, and the wife is asked, do you want a restraining order? And wisely, says no. This is internal, they're squabbling or whatever, doesn't need restraining order. The husband, who related his whole side of everything there too, he's asked, do you want a restraining order? And he wisely said no as well. So now you have a couple, they're gonna whatever, but they don't want restraining orders. They don't want the government in their life. They're not interested in that. What happens? The government files red flag TERPOs, temporary extreme risk protection orders, on both of them. Neither wanted restraining order. Neither wanted, and it didn't matter. The government now files to take away both of their gun rights, to take away and put them on a list of extreme risk that puts you on a database that could even arguably be accessed by TSA, others that you're a danger, right? It has farther reaching collateral consequences than just taking guns and taking away your gun rights, putting you into the court system now to have to individually fight TERPOs because we're from the government and we're here to help. That, my friends, is the GOFU. Keep it in mind at all times about being from the government and there to help. This is especially on the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. This is Evan Knappen and Teddy Knappen reminding you that gun laws don't protect honest citizens from criminals. They protect criminals from honest citizens, and even Thomas Jefferson knew that.
Gun Lawyer is a Counterthink media production. The music used in this broadcast was managed by Cosmo Music, New York, New York. Reach us by emailing evan@gun.lawyer. The information and opinions in this broadcast do not constitute legal advice. Consult a licensed attorney in your state.